So it's like 6 a.m. Uh, I just wanted to just share some thoughts. A wise old man as I get older and I go through more stuff. And, I've been through lots of ups and downs over the last 42 years and in my real estate journey, right? Um, and I just want to share some of those observations and some of the things that are hurting investors and are going to hurt investors, it, and how and just some of the things you got to look out for. So I'll give you an example. I was building homes in the 80s. I was building homes. I owned a cabinet shop for 10 years, and or almost 10 years, not quite. That was what real estate is what actually put me in a position where I didn't need my business anymore. So I sold my company when I was 27 for 250,000 because I'd already made about $1 million in real estate, and so that set me free. And I did it with land and houses, uh, and commercial and industrial buildings. So pretty wide portfolio in a very short time. And and those of you watching, hey, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I've been doing this for a long time, and my students have tremendous success. But that's not. I don't even care about that right now. I do have a webinar tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Be sure to catch that if you can. Really, you should catch it. I don't care if you've been doing real estate 30 years. I promise you'll learn something from me. I've just been doing it for so long, and very active and very successful. And and even, anyways, I'm just going to talk about some of the pitfalls. So yesterday, I lost a tax fight, a tax appraisal fight yesterday. And that's going to cost me $50,000 a year, except I will prevail. So the and this kind of goes to what's going on in the country in general. There's just, first of all, you got, it's just so dog eat dog. Uh, you know, so I've got a property that's being appraised at a value, or assessed, I should say, assessed at a value twice what it's worth, which increases my tax burden an additional $4,000, maybe $4,200 a month. So in the end, pushing almost $50,000 a year, right at $50,000 more a year. You have people that are not qualified for the jobs that you're doing, and I'm talking about the tax assessor, uh, that are apathetic. They just don't care. Uh, you have you have scammers selling real estate courses on things they don't know about, uh, that the target is selling to people. They don't care about people. Nobody cares about each other. I'm just telling you, nobody cares about each other. So I can just tell you right now, and I, I don't want to say nobody, because I actually do care, but so many people don't do care, but so many people don't, that that people just get chewed up like hamburger, and people just get chewed up like hamburger, and and they don't even feel bad about chewing each other up. And they just figure, hey, better him than me, and whether that's somebody $50,000 just on one of my properties, and this is the result of a person put in a position that's not qualified to do the job they're doing, and as a result, there's this $50,000 burden lobbed on me. Well, I have the wherewithal to fight it. So they say, hey, you know what? Instead of us hitting you for, roughly 1.7 million more than your property's worth, how about we just hit you for about $1,000,001 more than it's worth? And so that's, it's kind of like, hey, we're gonna, it's like doubling the price and then saying, hey, we'll knock off a little bit. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And so what does this mean? So now what happens is I don't accept what they offer. I say, we're going to go to, and I have a choice. I can either go to court, go to court, or I can go to binding arbitration. We go to arbitration, and I make my case, they make their case, I win. No question. That's go. But let's talk about, so I've got a tax assessor probably making $100,000 a year to make a very unfair decision on this property. And now I go to a formal hearing, and you've got three, quote, volunteers that are really not qualified for their jobs either. And they're making a decision based on what an uninformed, unqualified person has brought to them. And so now this leads to me now not accepting it, and now we're going to go to court. And so I have to go get an appraisal. That'll cost me $5,000, and then we'll go to arbitration, another $1,000 there, and then they'll go through it, they'll make a decision, and then I'll get a fair appraisal. But I have to go through this process. Meanwhile, I will have probably paid the extra $50,000 on taxes, and then by the time I get my court date or my arbitration date, I will have spent, my time is worth something, right? I will have spent $10,000 at least between the appraisal and the $1,000 arbitration fee. That's what you pay the arbitrator. And what will happen is I'll get a fair deal. But I will have spent $50,000 that I will get refunded to me, okay, that I'll get refunded to me later on. And so, but a smaller investor can't deal with this. A smaller investor, they don't have the wherewithal. They would have settled and paid an extra $25,000 or $30,000 more than they should have that year. So it's just so stinky. That even in general, the paths to getting things resolved in your local city are so complicated. Even just getting a permit pulled and everything else, it's just such a mess that they end up hiring somebody else to go through this labyrinth of bullshit. And it's kind of that way with taxes, it's that way with permitting, it's that way with a lot of different things. And so what happens is it creates this whole economy of facilitators to do something that should just be very cut and dried and simple. And so, it's just going to be really interesting how it shakes out, because one of the things that happens when the economy gets tough like this is, I'll give you an example. When I would go pull a contract, and I'd go to get a building permit to build a new home or whatever. I go in there with a set of plans. We'd stand there at the counter. This is 25, 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. Or maybe 25 years ago too. I built some buildings that went fairly smooth. And, you sit there and you're talking about, that's a good start building. And you go build. It's not that way anymore. Now they got 8 people making the decisions of what one person used to make. And it takes much. So now what happens is when things slow down, when permitting pulls down, well, then people inside the office tend to want to look busy. And so how do people in government get busy? They make work, more bureaucracy. So now when you bring in, instead of getting the plans done at the counter, they say, oh, I need to look at those a little longer, because they want to stack the plans up on their desk so they look like they're busier than they are. But really what they're doing is simply, when they were busy, they'd manage things, they'd push things through. And now that they're not busy, they're going to take much more time to do their job, which now, as a builder, is killing me, because I can't get things done. I can't start the job, and time is money for everybody. And so in order to secure and save this job, instead of getting it done, it's like, let's drag it out because I don't want to lose my job. Or maybe what's even worse is, this is, I talk about, there is no climbing the ladder. You just build rungs beneath you. And that means create. But I was just thinking about that. Then I had another thing. One of my students is got a very good deal right now, a very, 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 very good deal. And he's got it, and I'm excited and happy for him. But last minute, he gets something thrown at him. He gets this is part of the bureaucracy stuff, right? We get a environmental person. The bank, generally before they finance something, they'll have an environmental check on it to make sure there's nothing wrong with the property. Well, so they'll have an environmental guy just quickly do a, kind of a cursory look at it and see if there's anything. Well, so this happens, and this guy makes a note. You know what? There was some chemicals on there 30 years ago, or there was some, there was a gas tank or something 30 years ago, and so now the bank, in order to cover their ass, because they're overregulated as well, now they're going like, oh, wait a minute, we need to get an environmental study. Well, that's another $10,000. Okay, so now, even though the property's been fine for the last 35 years since it's been built, never been a problem, all of a sudden there's this little note that, yeah, there was a gas tank sitting on there, 30 years ago. Now that's triggering the necessity for this report to be done, dig it up, excavate it, test the dirt, and now there's a chance that the bank will get panicked. If it comes up with something in the ground, then it's like, okay, we're not going to finance it for you. And that's what will happen. And so now this guy won't get financing. And so it's not fair. But it's all because everybody trying to cover their ass and more bureaucracy that's not necessary. And these kinds of things are going to get worse. It's kind of, it's like the interest rate going up as much as it has, values have gone down. Well, the tax assessors know this on residential, because residential properties turn quite rapidly, so they get a sense of the values going down because they start to see the values decrease on the properties that are closed. Well, in commercial and industrial and even multifamily, those are based on profits. In other words, as an investor, I know what my spread is going to be, what I'm going to make on the property between the interest, the money I pay for money that I borrow, and the money that I make on the cap rate. But and these are more longer term holds, right? In other words, I'm going to buy it, and if I was going to flip it, I can't now because I'm trapped. It's like Ben Mala. I did a video on him recently. Ben, and I think he screwed up because he hasn't been in real estate as long as I've been. He's richer than me, but he hasn't been in real estate as long as I have. So he didn't understand or didn't respect the fact that rates can be so much higher than they are. And so he had these adjustable rate mortgages, and now he's paying the price. He's got probably a 4% adjustment on $150 million, and now it's costing him $500,000 a month that he didn't have to pay, whatever. A year ago. So what happens is because the real estate isn't changing hands, they don't have a sense that the values have dropped. So they lower the values on the residential stuff because they have they have something to reference. It keeps going down. But on the commercial, industrial, and that stuff, all they have to reference is the listings. Well, people are, even if they're trying to sell it for what they paid for it, it's not worth what they paid for it. And so they're not moving the prices down, they're not moving the values down, and they don't even know how to judge it anyways, most of them that are in a lot of these offices. But so the trap is that here, when things are going down, values are going down, they're still assessing the values at a rate that's higher than usual. Now, what does that mean? If I have triple net leases in place, I pass the burden to my tenants, but it may be enough to crush my tenants or put my tenant out of business that they fold up. So then the fear on my side as a landlord is, God, I don't want to pass this entire burden to them. All of a sudden, here, $4,000 more a month you got to pay. It's crushing. It'll devastate that business. So what happens is I'll pass half of that gain to them. I'll absorb the other, because I'm going to go to court in a year and I'll take it back. But if I wasn't going to go to court in a year, then it would just simply come out of my rear end and my tenant's ass, because somebody that doesn't know how to assess property is assessing property. And so anyways, it's just a vicious cycle where it's just so dog eat dog, but it's very frustrating. Like I say, I feel sorry for, my one of my students that's having to deal with this. Now, they're still going to make money. Don't get me wrong. They're still going to make money. Oh, let's see. Tremaine wrote, what do you think the 5 to 10 year effect of this? All right, let's see. Oh, geez, what did I do here? Hang on, Tremaine. God. Let me see that again. Oh, Tremaine, you deleted your message. I can't read it now, I guess. Anyways, look, here's the deal. It's the worst part about a downturn is the beginning of it happening, because everybody wants to everybody's trying to make money how they can, and so you've got people compromising their values, swindling people, and I'm talking about a lot of the fake gurus. They're swindling people, and so it's important for anybody on that aspect of it. I don't want to jump all over the place here, but the fact is, if you're going to pay somebody for knowledge, make sure that they have the experience and knowledge that they claim. Make sure that they really can show that they've made money over a very long period of time. Anybody can make money over the last 5-10 years. The values have gone up over the last 10 years, but it's very difficult to make money when things are not going up like a hockey stick. And that's where skill is important, and that's where experience comes into play. And that's what I bring to my students, by the way. But I, like I say, I don't care. Anyways, I got the webinar tonight. I hope those of you that are interested should come in. But those of you that really don't have a passion for it, don't come in. It doesn't matter to me. But you're not the target. You're not the money. I'm looking for success. But I just want to share with my fellow investors out there, and my students especially, this is kind of the worst part of the transitioning to reality is everybody gets more desperate and people start going after you in different ways. And I'm talking about everything, but the tax man, just any bureaucracy that can be thrown. They have to keep busy, right? And this is like my students dealing with this environmental. This guy makes a note that, there may be a concern. Well, he knows that even the subtlest notation of a concern is going to trigger the necessity of a $10,000 study that he gets to do. And so, it's just like, it's a lot of times you go to and I'm not saying all lawyers, there's some good ones out there, but, lawyers don't make money. They make money because there's a problem. And so, a good lawyer, you bring in something to them, they'll look at, yeah, no, everything's fine, but other ones, they'll put so much legalese in there, or they'll say, oh, no, we got to change it. And really, effectively, maybe sometimes they don't even change anything. They just make it maybe a little more wordy, okay? And it really doesn't accomplish anything, but it creates a job, it creates a check, it creates a few hours at, whatever, say $400 to $600 an hour. That happens. But again, anyways, unfortunately, what I really worry about is that there's so much money being spent on unnecessary stuff. Like in my case here, you've got volunteers that don't need to be there. You've got a person assessing values that doesn't know what they're doing, getting a check, punishing the public, punishing the people that, the small businesses that I'm going to pass this burden on to the property owner like me that has to deal with it. So between me and my tenant, we're going to be dealing with this burden. But and meanwhile, consider that my tenants already had to deal with, and me too, we've had to deal with the pandemic. That was tough. Look, I've got tenants that I've had to eat it with. I've helped them survive. And, I consider our success shared. And when things are down, you got to band together. And you know what I mean? You do what you got to do to help them get by. And, but the people that are isolated from it, like in this case, in the tax office, or in this case, the guy doing the environmental studies, that all they know is this is going to create more work. Well, creating more work creates more financial burden on the people that are actually going out there making things happen. And so, like I say, it's just this bureaucracy and apathy is really destroying the country, and it's going to get worse. Just going to get worse. And then once they start having bank failures, once they start having property go back to the bank, and then guys like me come back and buy it at pennies on the dollar, and then we get to go back to the tax assessor and point to the fact that we just bought something for 30% of construction cost because things are so fucked up. Then we can go to court and get a fair deal, and then they'll have to adjust things down to below even the cost, construction cost. So that's the game, that's what's coming, and this is a huge opportunity for some, and those people that have been let off a cliff with, people that don't know what they're doing, it's devastating to them, and so they're going to get a lesson. And and that's kind of what happens. Two people meet sometimes. There's the smart people that know what they're doing, and the people that fucked up, overpaid, going back to the bank. I get to pick through their bones by buying up the remains from the coroner, in this case the bank, and and there's nothing really I can do about it, and there's nothing I really like about it, except not participate. But that doesn't help either, because as long as I'm participating and making jobs, then it helps. But it's the bureaucracy. You know what I mean? That's why business people get so frustrated with government and have a hard time even being involved with it, because they're used to doing things that are productive and smart, not creating jobs at the expense of the public, So anyways, I could go on and on, but I just want to tell you guys, listen, be really careful out there. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust me. Don't trust anybody. But use your head. And if you're going to hand somebody money to help you, then you got to make sure they know what they're doing. I tell my students same thing. A lot of people, attempt to do a fixer-upper, that sort of thing, and they don't know what they're doing, and they get taken advantage of, and they lose their ass. In fact, I did a video on, Stephen Cornelia, what is he? Cornelia? I forget his name. Anyways, Stephen Cornelius, whatever. The guy, he's a good YouTuber and a nice guy. And he honestly talked about his adventure in buying a property out of state, and he got led by a fake somebody that didn't know what they're doing, that he believed knew what they were doing, and he ended up throwing himself in a terrible jam and ended up making a nice, honest video, which I critiqued. Go watch that video, because he didn't know what he was doing. I'm looking at this stuff. He hired a builder that I'm like, the builder didn't know what they were doing. And so that's the problem. When you don't know what you're doing, you don't know when you're being fooled. And this could be by, somebody like, look, it could be one of these guys that are claiming to have knowledge. Listen, when people talk about mindset and they talk about lifestyle and they get 50 haircuts a year, they are not a businessman. They are not. Or they're caught up into style, not substance. Okay, look at I don't even worry about. I get up in the morning. I don't worry about my hair. I don't worry about any of that shit. But guess what? If I got made up and looked super clean, I clean up pretty well actually. I would probably be more convincing. There'd probably be more people watching me because I'd be more pleasant to look at. But the smart people, they listen. They don't care about with the exterior. They don't care about the looks. They care about the content that's coming out. And if you're smart enough to pay attention to content, and I know some of you are, then that's what you got to do. You got to think for yourself, trust yourself, because nobody is going to help you make money. People can give you knowledge, but you got to remember, if they're making money on you, some people will say anything to take your money. And some people, that's the whole game, is just tell you what you want to hear, lead you into a bad investment. In fact, the sooner they get you in a bad investment, you're gone. You're not asking any more questions anymore because you're stuck. They don't even have to see you again. That's kind of what can happen too. So, anyways, I know I'm rambling. I got to drink some more coffee, but uh, you know, I just I'm a spectator to other people's demise right now, and I'm glad I'm a spectator, and I'm not one of the people that's going to get taken advantage of or destroyed, or somebody that's destroyed themselves by making a bad decision. And that's the thing, you got to be really careful. I have a thing I say to all my students: easy to do, hard to undo. Easy to do, hard to undo. And that's the problem. You get yourself in a bad investment, you it can wipe out the next 10 years of your life, supporting a bad investment. And for a young person, 20 to 30, I mean, it's devastating in the beginning, but they can come back from it. But you do that to somebody that's 40 or 50, they ain't got 10 years. They ain't got 10 years to make a bad decision. And so, anyway, and if you fall into that class, so listen, just look. If you're looking at real estate information, I assume that's why you're watching me. Some of you, of course, have always watched me, but if if you're looking for a good mentor, watch me. Go to my webinar. Go to Pace Morby's webinar. Go to Grant Cardone's webinar. Go to Chris Crone's webinar. Go to, Ryan Pineda. I can't even imagine. But there's you can't pull experience out of your ass. You have to demand proof of expertise. Listen, I hired a lawyer one time, and this is when I was very young. This guy didn't know what the hell he was doing, and I had to find out in court that he didn't know what he was doing. And we were riding together. We damn near had a fist fight in the front seat of the car. I was so fucking mad at him. And but he was actually a Vietnam vet. And the next day, you know what? I said, all right, let's go. I was stuck, and I ended up settling the case myself, to be honest. But because I realized, oh shit, and so that can happen, but you got to remember, people don't mind misrepresenting themselves if they're going to make it the money at your expense. What's the big deal? That's how they feel. And I want to say something else. It's easier to take the high road when you really are wealthy. When you're wealthy, I don't have to. I can tell the student, I don't give a shit if you want to give me $10,000. I don't want you, and and I don't like to say it that way, but I have students that I turn down that want to give me a lot of money. I don't want them. I don't want people that won't be successful. It's not going to reflect well on me if they're not successful, and it's not going to do them any good as well. So I don't want them. But like, if you go into my web, if you go to FlipAnythingUSA.com, you can't sign up. You can't just sign up. There's not a sign up page on my site anymore because I don't want a dumbass to sign up. You have to talk to me. I vet you. You have to be approved to get in my mentorship. But guess what? Go to any of these other ones. Go to any of these other ones, and they will quickly let you sign up no matter what your experience level, because they don't care. They do not care. And so, anyways, but at least somebody, that, like I say, some people don't feel bad giving somebody an experience like that, and like I say, they'll say. That's the trade-off. One guy gets your money, the other guy gets the experience. Sometimes it's a horrible, bad experience, but it's a good lesson, and hopefully they learn from it. Some people never do. But so I'm going to let you guys go. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Please make a comment. You think I'm full of shit, write it in the comments. Or likewise, if you want to make a positive comment, that's okay. I don't mind. I don't care. I know me. I know myself. I know my success, and I have a history of it. And you'll see it in the webinar, by the way. I go through 40 years of success, take you all over the globe on the properties of the properties that I've own today still, and stuff that I've bought and sold and made money on decades ago. And that's the kind of experience, and that's the kind of thing that you should demand from a mentor, is that kind of proof of experience. And and be wary of vague things like deals. Oh, I've done 500 deals. Oh, What does that mean? You did 500 deals and lost other people's money? Because a lot of these people they talk about my team, my team, my team. You don't hear me say my team. I don't say my team. I'm a team of one. I make the deals. I make all the decisions. I have all the risk myself. Yeah. Do I have people that I hire to do things for me? Of course I do. But I don't. I take all the risk. I put out all the money. So the guys that say team, they're basically, what that tells me is that they're not a lone operator. In other words, they don't operate by themselves. They don't make the decisions by themselves, or they're taking credit for other people's deals too. That happens too. By saying team, you kind of saying it's inclusive. I'm including everybody in my team. If somebody makes a deal here, somebody makes a deal there. Anyways, so Flip Anything USA, again, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'll try to never steer you wrong. Everything I tell you is from the heart. There's something that I may not tell you because you got to be in the mentorship to get some of that secret sauce of wisdom. All the stuff I've been through, I'm protective of it for my students. It's not fair to give it away to everybody. So anyways, thanks for watching. Take care.